Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special Black Health Matters live stream event presented to you by the Love Tank. The Love Tank is a small community interest company based in London that works to address health inequalities in marginalised communities, with a particular focus on Black and Brown and queer communities. I'm absolutely delighted to be here this evening to present to you one of our Black Health Matters live stream events. The Black Health Matters project started 2 years ago and had a very explicit intention of working to increase the ability of Black communities, particularly those with lived experience, to address the health inequalities around a number of health issues. Over that period of time, we ran a number of live stream events focusing on several health conditions, from COVID to mental health to fibroids, a range of issues which we felt impacted on Black communities. And in those live stream events, we brought in people with lived experience from the communities to not only share their narratives, but to explore solutions to some of the issues that we face, which impact on not only our healthcare, but how we access and engage in services, treatment, and support. Today is a really special one for us, because on the back of last week's International Women's Day, we wanted to celebrate and raise awareness around some of the issues which impact Black women's health. We were contacted a few months ago by somebody, a Black woman who had lived and gone through breast cancer. And they approached us and wanted to write a blog. And that got us thinking that we should have a bigger and wider conversation about the issue of breast cancer and how it affects Black women in our community. So tonight, I'm absolutely delighted to say that we have 4 amazing women who are going to be talking about their experiences, about treatment and support, and what we can all do to improve the lives and well-being of Black women who are impacted by breast cancer. So I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to hand over to Helena Boyce, who's the person who contacted us to write the blog. I would really sincerely ask for you to check out her blog post. It's funny, it's important, and it's really relevant to tonight's conversation. And you can read about that on the Black Health Matters website. So that's it from me, and I'm going to hand you over to Helena. Enjoy the conversation.
It's wonderful to be here with you. My name is Helena, and it's lovely to see you all here today. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, but you can read all about that on the blog that Mark mentioned. But I, now age 45, I was diagnosed back in 2014 at age 36 with grade 3, so a fast-growing breast cancer. I was absolute peak fitness at the time. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't do anything crazy. So it didn't make really any sense as to why I ended up with breast cancer. Went through the usual treatments of chemotherapy and had a mastectomy. And then to find in 2017 that the lump came back in pretty much exactly the same place. I had, some off-putting, strange experiences during my cancer journey. Which really only is experiences that you will have as a Black woman. And so please, read all about that on my blog. So wonderfully for me, I was able to find a group called Black Women Rising, which were incredible. I wish I'd found them sooner. And it was this wonderful space of sisterhood, to be able to, really just talk very frankly about your experiences, what you were going through. You could literally sit in a room and say, the hair thing, and everyone's like, and they understand where you're coming from. And it's just, it's a nice relaxed space where you don't have to explain more about your situation because of your ethnic background. So it's been an invaluable place for me. And many other women that I now know and pretty much call family. So the Black Women Rising cancer support was set up by a lovely lady called Leanne Perret. She was diagnosed with cancer at age 30 and found that she wasn't really able to find any representation as a young woman with cancer and a young Black woman with cancer in the media or in any of the NHS services. And so it kind of propelled her to set up Black Women Rising, which has now just shot off. And there are so many members now receiving so much support. There are monthly coffee mornings. There's all different types of therapies. They've joined up with Percy Health, which are able to provide lots of different health services for the women now. So please go and check them out. And they do have a magazine every year. So get that magazine. It is free. So please go get that magazine. So enough about that. I would like to introduce our first guest, a lovely, lovely lady called Davina. And Davina is 45 years old, doesn't look it at all, which is quite upsetting for most people. She's got 2 children, one of which is a grown-up. You won't believe it when you see her. She was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer in 2021, so not that long ago. She had 15 months of treatment, which included the chemotherapy, surgery, a lumpectomy, and all the lymph nodes in her armpit removed. Radiotherapy followed by oral chemotherapy in a tablet form. So let's go and meet her now. Davina, come on over. There she is. See, look, she looks like, how old are you? No, you're not 45. This is not true. You're a beautiful, beautiful woman. I've had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of times now, which is wonderful. And you're just a gorgeous, gorgeous human. Would you mind giving us a little bit of information about your experience as a Black woman with cancer?
I would probably have to start from diagnosis. So I found a lump in my armpit, which was quite big, but it was quite embedded, but I was putting on my deodorant and it just didn't go how it was supposed to go. So I called up the doctor. She said to me, it's nothing, but you can come in if you want. So I went in, it's only down the road, and I was marched in. She felt my armpit like that and she said, it's nothing. And she marched me out again. Only on my way out down the corridor did I say, well, you know, if it's still there, like, when should I come back? She said, 2 weeks. And that was it. A couple of days after, I found a lump in my armpit, in my breast. And I was lucky enough to have private healthcare and have a GP service. And straight away, they gave me some antibiotics and said if anything changes to let them know. And then that's when I found the lump in my armpit, and I got seen straight away. And I had quite very good care, but I did find that when it comes to some of the side effects, I mean, I'm a MAC, you know, the darkest color, NW60, which is even a bit too light for me. So there are a lot of side effects when it comes to skin changes that you wouldn't know. No, I mean, I know people that have had cancer, but no one's been as dark as me. So, and then even when it comes to things like radiotherapy, I was told that you get these little tattoos put on you. And I had a telephone consultation and they said that I'll have the tattoos. And I said, do I have to have them? She said, yes. I said, is there any other thing that they can do? She said, no, which I know there was. And when I went in for the preliminary checks and everything, she said to me, oh, I didn't know you were that dark. And I was like, but I told you I was very, very dark for a Black person. And she said she knows of someone who had radiotherapy, and by the time, you know, they got halfway through, they couldn't see the dots. So I ended up having these things called point guards and Sharpies. It's like these stickers. And it's just things like that, you know, and even when it comes to the hair, you know, a lot of people don't know how it grows back, or, you know, you can't get hold of wigs if you want to have some wigs, or the nails, you know, my nails went black. Is it like that for others? You know, so there are a lot of things like that as Black women. And I do find that as a Black woman, you have to advocate for yourself even more so than others. And it's a shame that you have to, because not everyone's built like that. I am built like that. I ask the questions, I have my book. And because of that, I believe that I'm taking that a little bit more seriously, because I know what I'm talking about. And I challenge the doctors, or I've been quite fortunate because I have, you know, come up with some resistance, but I'm built like that. So it's easy for me, you know, but not everyone's built like that, and you shouldn't have to be like that. So that there are times when you're not taken seriously. And even now, if I have to go to my GP, I'm still not taken seriously. So it's just like another struggle that you've got when you've already been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Right. And do you kind of feel like, I mean, obviously it's a no-brainer that a number of the challenges that you faced in your diagnosis and your process of going through the cancer, they are because of being a Black woman, but are there things that you feel perhaps under the radar you've had to come up against, knowing deep down in your heart it's because you're a Black woman, that perhaps if you weren't, you may not have had that situation pop up, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the biggest thing is this, bias, whether it's unconscious or conscious. Sometimes it is conscious, with regards to just, it's hard to put your finger on it, but it's a feeling that we know that we get. And it's like when someone tells you that's not racist, but they're not on the receiving end of it. So I do know of just the way that the way you're spoken to, and the way that you're not taken as seriously as somebody else who said exactly the same thing would be. There can be a lack of warmth towards you, especially if you're not, some people are more reserved than others. And even those that aren't, it's not taken very well. So just, I would say things like that. And for example, I'm suffering a lot from joint pain, and after everything, and no one's really listening, So there's a lot of things that you can't put your finger on, but you know that it's there. And just a side note, for example, I'm not 100% sure, but I did hear somewhere, I'm not, don't quote me on this, but that Black women tend to have dense breasts. Now I had a mammogram a couple of years before, which was clear. And only between that time and this time did I know about dense breasts. And when I got diagnosed, the lump in my armpit was, this big. So it's funny how the doctor didn't see that. And my doctor, when I went to see the oncologist, surgeon, he was very, very concerned. Like his face literally fell when he felt my breast and the armpit. But I went to get a mammogram, and the lady said, "Oh, it's all clear." And that's when I said to her, "Do I have dense breasts?" She says, "Oh, yes." But if I knew that 2 years before, maybe I would have, I would be more vigilant.
Yeah.
I would have known that it's still possible, that you could still, you could still present with breast cancer without.
I hear you, yeah.
Because of that, and because I'm quite proactive, I now don't just have mammograms. I have MRIs, breast MRIs, and ultrasounds along with the mammogram. But who would have known if I didn't happen to read about dense breasts? Because no one tells anybody.
Right. And again, like you say, you're that kind of person. You're built like that, as you said, where you're going to be like, right, get shit done. What else do I need to find out? And like you say, not everybody is like that.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Davina. I really appreciate that. It's very, very honest and very straight to the point, which I love. That's what we're here for. Guys, if you are out there and you're watching, throw those questions at us. So if there's anything there that Davina's spoken about that you're like, I want to know more about that, or where can I find more information, then please do chuck those questions and comments at us. Let's go over and meet our next beautiful guest. And her name is Pam, the lovely Pam. I've only met Pam a couple of times. If you don't know, I don't live in London, which sucks big bum, because I would love to see these ladies more often. But let me tell you a little bit about Pamela. She's 40 years old, and she was diagnosed with HER2 plus breast cancer, HER2 positive, at the age of 38. She's a single mum of 2 young boys who are 6 and 9. Woohoo, handful. And I'm currently navigating, she says, through life due to the side effects caused by chemotherapy and immunotherapy. So let's bring Pam on over to the group. There she is. Look at her beautiful face. She's so cute. Oh, it's lovely to see you, Pam.
See you too, Helena.
Oh, so good to see you. Just having both your faces on my screen. So, it's a group hug. Yeah, so it's lovely to see you, Pam. Same really question for you. I'm sure that you've listened there to what Davina said. There's probably a lot there that you're like, nodding heads and stuff. So maybe you could give us a little bit about your journey through cancer, the diagnosis, etc., and kind of how you found things perhaps felt a bit different for you in some ways.
Yeah, so a lot what Davina said is so relatable. How I found my lump was I was playing with my son. I've got two boys, and he jumped on top of me, and I fell backwards, and that's how I felt my lump. It's only visible when you're actually lying down. So,
wow.
I didn't think anything of it. I was thinking, oh, it must be a cyst. How can a 38-year-old woman get breast cancer? It didn't even cross my mind. So I was working as a teaching assistant at that time, and I was just chatting to my colleagues, and I said, do you think I should check it out? And they said, well, yeah, it's just good to just check it, and it's probably nothing. And I'm fortunate that I've got a good relationship with my GP. So even during COVID, they were available. Okay. So I called them up, and they said, yeah, sure, come in and we'll have a look. And she checked, and she said, don't worry about it, but I'm going to send you to the Royal Marsden Hospital in Sutton, which still didn't cross my mind that she's sending me all the way to Sutton. So I went on my own. And anyone that knows the Royal Marsden Hospital, it's an amazing hospital. They have a diagnosis center that has a mammogram, ultrasound, and a consultant all in one center. And I literally had all of that done on the same day. And I got told on the same day, I'm really sorry, you've got breast cancer.
Oh, that's awesome. I had to wait 2 weeks.
No, it's good, but in hindsight, it's a lot.
In one go, right?
In one go. So they had to put me in a quiet room because I thought I was going to die. How I was going to look after my kids. And there was just so much going on that, and also from that start, it's like, okay, we need to get this lump out. It was from the get-go information. I didn't retain any information, by the way.
No,
so it was a lot. So I had a lumpectomy, and then got told after that when they took the lump out that some of the margin was still cancerous, so I needed another surgery. But before they do that, I had chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey because the side effects, obviously, they'll tell you, well, only 5% will get neuropathy or brain fog. But later on, you find out that people like us are not part of that statistics, and then you need to find a study in America where it shows that people of color are so high to get neuropathy after one of the chemo treatments, which they haven't done a study here.
Right.
So it's just absolutely navigating through these things that you wouldn't even be aware that these are happening. But unfortunately.
So it sounds like Pam that we all three of us here have kind of we're in that space where we're like, we need to go and do our own research, we need to go and find our own information, we need to go and look our own shit up, because those things are not getting told to us in varying degrees in whatever scenario. We're not getting that information. And on one hand we could say, well, you can't blame them if they haven't had, well, this is what I feel personally in my thoughts in my head. It's like, well, can you blame them if they don't have that many people to be able to build those statistics? Is it really their fault? And then it's like, wait, hang on a minute. That's exactly why we're here where we are now, and why we need to do the work to make sure that the people in our community are understanding. If you find something, you need to go and get it looked up. You need to go and find out what is going on. You need to push for a definite answer. something that I was going to kind of say later on, but now seems a perfect time, that during my first diagnosis, I saw nobody in leaflets, nobody on TV, nothing, right? So we're going back 2014. Then the events of 2020 happened. We all know what we're talking about. And then suddenly there was a lot of need for tick boxing. I think, in my opinion, this is how it feels. It was like, right, shit, we need to get a black person, you know, and it's like, get them in the advert, put them in the photo album, put them in the leaflet. But in a recent study, Black women from Caribbean and African backgrounds are still, and this is a study that was done January this year, are still 2 times more likely to receive a late stage diagnosis for some cancers over their white British counterparts. And so, is that because we're still, yes, there's all this representation now. Thanks very much for ticking that box, Fairly. But what is it we need to do more of to make sure that we are actually getting through to people, to get them to get to the doctor, do that tough step of stepping into the doctor's surgery or going and seeing a specialist? I think that's definitely something we can talk about a little bit later on. I thank you so much, Pamela. I'm going to introduce our next gorgeous person, which is Georgette. Are we ready for Georgette? Can I have a drum roll, please? Sorry, I'll do my own drum roll. It's fine. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to our beautiful Georgette. She is one of a handful of plastic and reconstructive surgeons here in the UK who are dual qualified also in breast surgical oncology. She's a consultant at Nottingham Breast Institute, which is one of the leading units for oncoplastic breast surgery in the country. She offers the full range of breast procedures from oncoplastic breast conservation through to microvascular, free flap breast reconstruction. That was a mouthful. She is a keen teacher, lecturer, health advocate, particularly overseas, where she has been involved in the health outreach programs and breast health education. She is the founder of Let's Talk About Black Women and Breast Cancer Annual Conference and a trustee for Breast Cancer Now. So let's bring the gorgeous Georgette. Has she got her scrubs on? That's what I want to know. Oh, wait, there she is. Woo-woo! Excellent. Oh, wonderful, Georgette. So thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. You've been sat listening to Davina and Pamela kind of talk about their experiences, and I mentioned a little bit there about the statistics are not really changing despite the fact that we're getting more representation in areas. What are your thoughts on that, and perhaps your experience in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always really, really grateful when people share their experiences because I work mainly kind of like on a grassroots kind of level, and being able to have these conversations and talk about what is actually happening on the ground is actually quite important in terms of education. So yes, you've got your statistics, you've got your science, but you've also got to be able to share stories on, how you found your cancer, what those treatments were like. Some of the things that we've heard about changes during chemotherapy, like your nails, like the tattooing. I mean, these are things that unless people speak up and talk about them, it's not going to cross people's minds that they need to consider these things, think about these things, ask about these things. So that was really kind of one of the sort of driving factors for setting up the conference, the Let's Talk About Black Women in Breast Cancer conference, just so that it would be a space where, Black women could come, talk about their experiences. It was about shared learning. So it's not just for like the public. We also have healthcare professionals. We talk about the issues which are specific to Black women. We talk about how to examine. We talk about screening. We also talk about cancer itself, the treatments, and, a bit more about what to expect. And it's, like I said, it's a shared space. So a lot of the workshops, they're run not just by healthcare professionals, but also by people that have gone through this journey themselves. So I think it's quite unique in that respect because, like I said, it's shared learning. So it's not just what can healthcare professionals preach at you, but, what can we learn, which I think is actually really important. And I have to say that in terms of people that have been willing to listen, I have been impressed that people have been willing to listen. We're going into our 5th year now for that conference. And, I consistently get feedback from health professionals that they're finding it very interesting to hear about the experiences. And, so my philosophy is if you can get people to sort of think about the nuances of the person that's sitting in front of you, then you can help them through what is arguably one of the most difficult journeys they're going to have to take in life, quite frankly. So yeah, it's always a lot of pressure to get these things organized, but actually on the day it just feels like a wonderful experience because it's just a space for shared learning.
That's wonderful. So so you find yourself then that it's really, you've kind of answered a question really, which was, why are we still kind of in this place now where Black women are still twice as likely to find themselves diagnosed with later stage cancers. Even though we're now sort of tackling the issue of there being representation, I've seen an advert, I've seen a leaflet. When I was sat in a waiting room in 2014, 2017, I was looking at, 74-year-old Maple, and I'm like, sorry, love, I don't relate, but, do you feel then that it's really about conversation?
Yes, I think it's about many things, isn't it? Conversation being one of them. But until you have the conversations, you can't exact the change. And you're absolutely correct. We will now be seeing leaflets with different people on those leaflets. You will be seeing, screening information, not just with white women, but with Black women, Asian women. You will see, I'm a trustee at Breast Cancer now, and one of the things they've really tried to do is to improve the visibility of women, not, Black women, Asian women, women of color. They've been really trying to improve that visibility because, at the end of the day, if you have a charity whose mantra is we're trying to improve things by, I think it's 2050, well, there's a lot of different women that get breast cancer. It's not just all white women. And so therefore you have to reach everybody. And, one size is not going to fit all. I say this a lot, one size is not going to fit all. And, I understand you can't have millions of different sizes, but fundamentally, there are some differences and you do need to target. And the part of the reason why I'm so passionate about Black women, apart from obviously being a Black woman myself, is because we know that they do have worse outcomes. And so, if we can do our bit to try and improve that, then, I think that all of these types of initiatives are really, really important. And somebody raised the point about data and the fact that we actually don't have a lot of great data in this country at all. A lot of what we go on comes from America, and we're not entirely sure whether that's completely translatable. So again, another thing that, I bleat on about is, about really kind of getting women involved, Black women involved into clinical trials. And it's almost like, because actually the incidence of breast cancer in Black women is not as high as in white women, it's almost like if you have a Black woman in front of you, then you really need to make the effort to try and encourage her, or equally Black men can get breast cancer as well. But you really need to encourage, to see if there's any clinical trials, etc., that they can get involved in, because, without that data, we cannot say if these things are applicable almost. We have very, very good treatments now for breast cancer. But, people have to be, accepting of them. They need to be understood. They need to be comfortable that they're in a safe space to be able to accept those treatments. And they need to feel that they can talk about the issues that they might have, from the fact that they're undergoing that treatment process, and to know that somebody's listening. So there's multiple factors which are involved in getting good outcomes, and, science is part of it, but just interpersonal relationships is a big part also.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. And I think as well, when you talk about interpersonal relationships, it also goes down to, for a lot of people, it can be family, and how their family are seeing this cancer. It's been, for a long time misunderstood that cancer is a white disease. I've had ladies tell me that well, you know, their auntie said, well, it's because you're eating all that white people food. You're eating all that white people food. So that's why you've ended up with this cancer. Or blaming it on a sin, that, you know, the religious sort of reasoning that, well, you must have done something wrong. You've done something to, you know, upset him. So this is your punishment, and you're just going to need to pray it away, you know. And so I think those things there are, you know, because of the representation issue, there's not enough, or there wasn't enough for a very long time. And still, we do need to do more work on that representation side that will combat those things. And when people feel like they can't even talk to their family about what's going on, you know, there's so many women that I've met that are like, I just did it by myself. I'm like, what? How did you? Yeah, I just put a head wrap on. Nobody knew. It's fine. You know, and even for myself, actually, I'm a dance teacher, and I spent the whole of my first cancer diagnosis still working, still teaching, you know, groups of 30 kids over and over and over, you know, day after day after day, because I was self-employed and there's no such thing as a cancer benefit. And, you know, I was kind of like, no, I can do this. I'm extremely strong. I'm fine. I can do it. You know, so I kind of just pushed through, where, you know, I really felt like I was a burden. You know, I don't think that that's something that is unique to Black women. I think that a lot of people feel that across the board. But yes, when you talk about the discussions and things that need to happen, and not always taking on board the data that you might find in America, because like their food standard laws are completely different to ours. There's stuff that's allowed in their food that's not allowed in UK food. So they're eating different things. So it's not completely translatable, I suppose, like you say.
But it's the best we've got. And I think that's
yeah.
And so, you know, it's about building our own now. We've got to build our own data. We need to know what it's like here in the UK, what the picture is looking like. But that's an excellent point, actually, about talking in families, because, again, this is one of the things I talk about quite a lot as well, is that conversation within our families, because we know that some diseases are passed down through families. And so if you don't know what your aunt passed away from, or your uncle, or your grandma, you know, it's very difficult to assess what your own personal risk might be, you know. And so some, you know, there are genes that are implicated in some breast cancer diagnoses, and these genes are, you know, common in other cancers too. So, you know, things like, you know, ovarian cancers, prostate cancers, pancreatic cancers, as well as breast cancers. So knowing about, you know, what your different relatives may have passed away from is actually quite important for you to be able to assess your own risk.
So talk to everybody about all of it. I mean, I heard there was an auntie, a great auntie, maybe someone somewhere maybe died from breast cancer. Don't know, we're not sure, because you go back a couple of generations, no one talked about it. You didn't talk about that stuff, you know. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think, you know, we're in a day and age now where everything is social media, right, girls? Davina, Pamela, do you agree? It's easier now to share our stories and than it may have been sort of even 10 years ago. So yeah, that's really, really
definitely. You reach more people as well through social media, and I have been told, you know, oh, Pam, you share too much, and it's not what we do. You know, just pray and it will go away. You know, I've heard that as well. But I feel like since I have shared my journey, so many people have come to me and said, wow, I've been through it as well, or I know someone that's going through it as well. So it's just breaking that bias and that shame that comes with cancer.
So what do you think then, ladies? Let's start with you, Davina. What do you think we can do, given all of these things that we've got in front of us that we're doing already, or perhaps we need to do more of, or whatever? But how do we encourage more women in our community, more Black women, to check themselves, to be more vigilant, and to maybe bring these statistics down of being diagnosed with late stage cancers?
I think, as was mentioned earlier, you know, some of us believe that it's not a disease of Black people. And I think I know one of the reasons is because no one talks about it. So I'm from Ghana, and you know, especially you know, our parents' generation and onwards, and some of our generation, it's almost like, oh, don't talk about that. Don't tell your business. But if you had a cold or if you had something else, you would talk about it, you know, and it's almost like there is that shame attached to it. So you may hear of Auntie so-and-so died of cancer, but you didn't see her while she's having chemo or while she's having treatment, going to the shops and doing this and doing that. So I think because of that, there's that fear that people don't want to know. So even if they did find something, there's that fear of going to the doctors because all you know is that so-and-so died of it. You never saw anyone living with it. You know, I was doing everything I did before, you know, with more difficulty, but I was doing that. And it is quite difficult as well because certain family members, you know, if it was just me, I've talked about it freely. Even when I was at work, I joined during lockdown, so I didn't meet my colleagues till, you know, almost finished treatment. But I said from day dot, I said, you can ask me anything. And I said, don't you dare treat me different. And I said the same thing to my family, because a lot of us, there is that fear as well to ask those questions. And I know everyone's different. So it's not like, I'm not saying if you don't feel comfortable, you shouldn't do it. But I think me doing that, you know, and I've had people ask me difficult questions, but I'm like, I'm just going to be straight with you. You know, if I'm not feeling great or if I'm feeling sad, you ask me how I'm feeling, I'm going to be honest. You know, so I think there's just that kind of lack of. It's like almost this fear, this don't talk about that. You know, it's almost like it's like a shameful thing. Like people you don't want them talking about. And I'm like, well, why don't I want them talking about it? And if they want to ask me, then they can come and ask me. It's really that simple. So I just think there's that fear, and so people don't want to be as vigilant in checking themselves because it's like you're scared. So if you did feel something, then you think you're going to die. You know, so people are not going to be as forthcoming in checking themselves and being vigilant about what to look out for. That's what I think.
Right. And we sitting here now are testament to the fact that you don't just, you know, go, oh, I've got cancer, and that's it. Life is over. So kind of then through what you said there, Davina, it's really a case of us sharing positive stories, you know, not always just, you know, I'm 35 and I got diagnosed with breast cancer. You know, like those really somber adverts that you see on TV, and you know, it's all about kind of living that you do live. There's you know, getting through it. It's a struggle, it's hard work, but you get it done, you know.
And the fake positivity, I don't do that either. You know, if I'm feeling bad, I'm telling you I'm not feeling great. If I'm feeling great, I'm feeling great.
Yeah. Because you're having a shit day, you just say it.
Yeah. I'm just like, you asked me, so I'm going to tell you.
Because it's truth. It's life, isn't it? It's life. And you know, even in normal life, on a normal day, you're going to be like, man, I feel like crap. I just want to eat chocolate and binge Netflix. You know, you're not going to have days where you just...
Every Monday morning.
Go to the gym. Every Monday morning. Was that you? I was at the gym on Monday morning, actually, Georgette.
Well, very good. Well done. That's very
good. Oh, thank you. Right. So, Pamela, what do you think? How can we, you know, you probably agree a little bit with what Davina said, but is there anything that you can think of just off the top of your head? How could we get more Black women to be more vigilant, check themselves, and get checked sooner rather than later?
Like awareness, talk about it. Break the barriers. It's not a taboo. We're the living example of living with cancer, and we're all good. You know, we like Davina said, we have our ups and downs, but we're good. We're here, and we need to keep showing that to our community, that if they do feel a lump, the first thing they should think about is get it checked, and be taken serious by their oncologist or GP, and get it done. You know, this shouldn't be, because my first thought when I got diagnosed was I'm going to die. So we need to change that narrative. That needs to be changed. And then, and also the more get checked, you know, the more we are involved, you know, in this cancer, because we getting diagnosed younger, you know, especially.
And also that chemo is different for everybody. I think everybody, you know, when you see in the telly, you just see them, you know, looking like this. And sometimes, yeah, you do feel like that, but not everybody does. You know, it's doable, you know, and everybody's different. I mean, at the beginning of my treatment, I kept asking them, is it working? Because I'm fine. You're coming with your piece of pen and paper going, oh, what are your side effects? And I'm like, well, I feel fine. Is it working? You know, and I think it doesn't mean, you know, I mean, it could be because of my lifestyle. It could be I just got lucky. It's no one knows, but you know, it's doable and everybody's different. So you can't go in. And I was very fortunate in not doing that because I had a friend who had it and I used to go chemo with her and everything. And she was relatively, you know, it was really difficult, but it was doable. And so because of that, I didn't go in with I went in with the mindset that who knows, you know, so I wasn't scared, you know, when I started doing it, because I just knew that maybe it's going to be more difficult, maybe it's not, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I love the way that both of you have put that. Georgette, just touching on something that both Pamela and Davina have said about not really being taken seriously. What advice would you give to somebody who goes in with a worry and maybe feels like they're not being taken seriously? If you've got anything that you would say would be a good idea for them to do?
Yeah, so I think this is really important, because what we've heard is about we need to be aware, we need to examine, we need to present if we find something. And so what that means is that when you do all of those things, we need to listen. And so we need to hear those concerns and we need to address them. So, you know, part of it is that's that two-way education. So understanding that Black women can get breast cancer younger. So, you know, the most up-to-date figures that we have, which are very not up-to-date, I think they're like 25-15 or something like that. 50% of the cancers diagnosed in Black women were under the screening age. So yes, you need to engage with your screening, but you also need to be very vigilant about how you examine your breasts and to know your breasts. And so that information also needs to disseminate to healthcare professionals, so that if they have a young Black woman who can feel a lump, statistically, yes, it's unlikely to be a cancer, but, you know, we need to double check that, right? I think it's you know, we've heard about people having to be really tenacious and to keep pushing to be able to get heard and get referred. But if you do feel a lump in your breast, it's perfectly acceptable for you to ask to be referred to a 2-week wait clinic to have that lump assessed. So I think yes, unfortunately, you do have to keep pushing. But that lump needs to be assessed, and you know, it's unlikely to be a cancer, but nevertheless, until it's assessed, we're not going to know that. So again, at the conference, the last couple of years, I've actually had like a coach come and actually speak about, you know, how to approach the consultation so that you can try and get the most out of it. So in terms of going prepared, I mean, Davina has talked about, you know, how she's had to be quite tenacious about how she's had to push to have things assessed, but how to be prepared when you go into that consultation so that you leave feeling satisfied that your concerns have been addressed. So it's not that you want to go in there and be the angry Black woman or whatever, you know, whatever the stereotype or trope is, but it's that you are prepared and that you have the tools to be able to push to essentially address a real concern that you have. You're not going, you know, frivolously. You're going because you're worried. And so having the tools to be able to get that point across, I think, is actually very important. So yes, you know, one of the sessions that we do have is exactly that, how to communicate effectively.
That's really awesome. That's such a lovely thing to hear, that like you, with the coach and sort of understanding how to assert yourself, essentially. You know, I think it's only through stories like ours where people can then start to understand that you, unfortunately, that it is what it is. You might just have to push a little bit harder. For example, I went for a wig. I was told I could definitely get the wig that I wanted. I waited 11 weeks going backwards and forwards by the time my hair had started growing back. And they tried to give me some 1980s Dynasty Dukes of Hazzard rip-off joke wig, like a mullet. It was horrendous. The worst thing. I would love to show you all a picture. I mean, I'd find a way that I can share it on the Black Health Matters page, but it was the most horrendous thing you've ever seen. But I had to fight while I was having cancer to get a wig for 11 weeks. Like, that makes no sense. So, you know, it's, you know, like Davina has said, and I think Pam's quite the same, that, you know, we're built in that way where we're like, nah, hang on a minute. I'm not sure I'm okay with that. I think I need to push a little bit harder. You know, I had to push a little bit harder to get an ultrasound in the boob that has an implant, because I had a mastectomy and then a reconstruction. So I'd go in for my mammogram on this side, but they can't mammogram this side because it's all implant. And I'd be like, well, that's the side that had cancer in. So can you ultrasound it then? And they're like, no, there's no cancer in there. And then lo and behold, like magic, less than a year later, there was cancer in there. So had I been that kind of person that goes, oh, okay, that's cool, and left the hospital and, you know, listened to my anxiety and never gone back, who knows where I'd be now. So, you know, it's important, I think, for us all to really get out there and chat, share our stories, tell the truth about how it is, don't sugarcoat it, you know, the unfortunate truth of understanding that we may need to be a little bit more assertive, and where to find the information to be able to kind of access tools to be more assertive in getting an answer either way. I was told I didn't have cancer the second time round, and I'm like, okay, well, what is it then? If it's not cancer, what is it? And then it turned out it was. So again, I could have walked away and said thanks very much and not be here now. So it is very important to be assertive.
I think we say that about a lot of things, don't we? That women know if there's something not right. Yeah, they know if there's something not right, and so, you know, this is what pushes you to keep pushing, is because you know it's not sitting well with you that something's not right. So it is really about having those tools to be able to effectively get people to listen, to investigate a little bit further.
Yeah. You know, and like you say, you know, if you often have that niggling feeling. So if you know that feeling is there, something is saying it's not right. I mean, my advice always is to people, look, if you go and see your GP, with all due respect, I know they studied for a long time to do their job, but they're a general practitioner. They're not specialists in any field. So I think that if you feel that you're not really being taken seriously, or you're not sure and you want to know a second idea from somebody else, second opinion, there's nothing wrong with asking for that, even if it's a different doctor in the same surgery that you've just been to. What about you, Davina? What advice would you give, you know, either through being assertive or even just to any women out there now that are going through cancer? What advice would you give them?
I would say what worked for me was I write everything down. So even on the day I got diagnosed, one-stop shop as well, I went in on my own. We couldn't go in with anyone anyway because it was COVID. And I went in with my book, and I chatted to a friend who was abroad, and he said, I want to know everything. He says, get that book out, write everything down. So I'm kind of known to both my oncologist and the surgeon with my book. So I'd be waking up in the night, I'd be like, oh, I've got a question. And I literally would go through the book. I've got a book right here even. I would go through the book. And so they know that I'm not leaving until I've asked. And I'll be like, oh, hang on, I'm just writing the answer down. And, you know, and they'll be like, have you got any more questions? And so because of that, for me, I wouldn't say that the treatment, though difficult, I wouldn't say it was scary for me, because I was fully informed. I would even ask the surgeon, how long will it take me to fall asleep? As long as I know everything, I've braced myself. I'm not a spontaneous person. So I know, for example, with chemo, this could happen, that could happen. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but at least I know it's possible. So for me, I find that if I know something could happen, and if I know what's going on, like for me, I need to know everything that's going on, then that takes away the flow.
So just being prepared. Yeah. I did something similar, actually. I kept a diary the entire time of all my symptoms and just stuff.
Even they're like, oh, what's your neutrophils? Oh, it's this, and you know, my weight, everything. I would just do that. So I find that, and I find not feeling that it's difficult to do it. But even if you feel that you're bothering your doctor, this is your life and your health we're talking about. Right. So if the doctor feels put out, that's really something that they need to manage. You know, You have to do whatever you need to do to get through this. And if that's what you have to do, then if they're going to get butthurt because you feel that you're questioning, the way they are or how they're doing things, then so be it. You have to question. And even if they are doing the right thing, you need to be reassured that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. So kind of getting the answers the way you need them on your terms, really. And again, it's being assertive and finding a way to be in control of your space at the same time.
Because everything else, your control, literally, you're just poked.
You have no control. It's like
exactly. It literally, it's like your body doesn't even belong to you. So where you can, a lot of it you can't control, but where you can, you need to just be aware of what's going to happen, what could happen. And so for me, that's
I love that. That's really cool, Davina. Right, we've only got about 10 minutes left. So Pamela, have you got sort of a short, sharp bit of advice for ladies going through cancer right now?
So I was able to bring someone with me, so that was very handy. So after the consultation, we would have like a brainstorm, like are you sure this is what was said? And make sure that we're on the same page. And also the Black Women Rising coffee morning and Zoom was my blessing. I felt like I could express myself, ask questions, and everyone would have some type of experience or even say something that I didn't even think of that I could later on relay with my oncologist team. So that are the three things.
So basically, go to Black Women Rising, sign up, get the support.
Definitely.
There's the link there, guys. I had a different group that I was a member of, and again, when the events of 2020 happened, people started to show their true colors, and I felt very, very unwelcome. And then found Black Women Rising, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm home! Thank you!" It's just the best. It's the best fucking place, man. It's so wonderful to be in a room full of people and you could just do, and they're like,
"We get it."
It's wonderful. I love it. It's wonderful. The sisterhood and the hugs and the love in the room when we're all together is just it's just unique. It's beautiful. Georgette, very quickly with you, have you got any advice for people going through cancer right now that you think would be?
So I think general advice is to actually look after yourself. So try to be as fit and try to be as healthy as you can, good diet, good weight, exercise, because, we've heard today from people who did that and that helped them get through their treatment. Yeah. It also helps reduce your risk generally for lots of things. So, blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems, cancer recurrence. If you've had a cancer before, there's lots of evidence now that being overweight, being sedentary, these things affect your ability to fight disease or, to stop disease coming back. So I definitely say just, try and be as fit as you can. I think one of the questions in the chat was about changes that I've seen. So, I've been in this space maybe for about 5 years now. And, the way that we are just openly talking about stuff, this was not happening 5 years ago. So, just the fact that you can literally find a community so quickly to talk about your experiences. And, the online thing has meant that it's not just, people, in your vicinity, it's anyone in the world you could, you could chat to about this. So, this has just kind of like opened up this, whole community of people that have got similar lived experiences, things that you can, just empathize with each other because, we know that this is what you're going through. And I think obviously, the educational piece is really important. Again, things like this, health education. And I'm a big, as you've heard several times, I'm a big believer in like that two-way education. So healthcare professionals as well as, members of the public to just, encourage like that discussion about, what it means, to have breast health. So we talk a lot about breast cancer, but we also need to talk about breast health. So, being able to examine yourself, to go for your screening. And so all these things are actually really important. And then the fact that there is now a plethora of organizations that you can go to. Obviously, you've heard about Black Women Rising, who have just been really instrumental in like really pushing to the fore the issues around, Black women going through cancer. But a lot of the other charities, yes, it has taken these major events of 2020 to kind of get them thinking about these things, but at least they are. are, so we need to kind of encourage them. We need to be very present, and we need to participate in what we can in order to continue driving it, because what we don't want to be is a fashion, right? We want this to be embedded in their philosophy. Black woman, we want it to be embedded in their philosophy. We want them to be thinking about us in their spaces, so that it's just a matter of fact. It's it's not a special consideration anymore.
Awesome. So education, talking about it, access as many services as you can,
and getting to clinical trials. That's my last thing. Getting to clinical trials.
You are not a hamster. Do the clinical trials. The sort of general well-being and health. Looking after your body and making sure that you're,
in as good a condition as you can, because life is going to throw things at us, right? It might not be cancer, it might be something else.
It might be something else, so why risk it?
But being fit and being ready for it will definitely
help me with my diagnosis. I think being so fit and healthy when I was diagnosed. Right, so I think we've got 5 minutes left. So no more talking, you lot. Let's see if we've got any questions coming through. I did see a little comment earlier on, Davina, when you were speaking, and it said that, people in the Ghanaian community generally just prayed for your health and gave you loads of jollof. That was it. That's all you got. Right. Okay, so so Christina said, there's such a stigma though. When I was diagnosed, people in my community just wanted to pray and give me jollof. We need to do more. Yes, Christina, we do need to do more. Although I welcomed the rice and peas and chicken that I got.
Is a good thing,
I was happy with that. We've got any others? Let's have a look. Charlotte said, what would you say to someone who has been recently diagnosed, who feels they can't speak with their friends and family? I think we've kind of gone through, with what Georgette has just said. There are so many now different organisations that are offering services that we can access. Find out information everywhere that you can find it. Honestly, just go to Black Women Rising.
Yeah. But also, some of these organisations can equip you with the tools to be able to start those conversations in your family. So, that's another reason to go.
So true. So true. Let's see if we've got another question. Throw it at me. Georgette, this one's for you. As a medic, have you seen change over the years with Black? Oh, we just answered that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We just answered that one.
It's the fact that we're talking about it
a lot more conversation.
People are becoming more aware about the nuances.
We had
Black women.
Zero conversation. Yeah, certainly when I was first diagnosed, even the second time when I was diagnosed, before I actually found Black Women Rising, there was no conversations. There was no conversations about it. Throw me another one. Throw questions at me. Chuck me the questions so I can. Marlene suggests, don't rush into clinical trials until you know in detail what it is. There is good and bad stuff. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think it's true of everything. So
more,
everything is education. So everything is getting information. Ask the questions. They give you information. They give you time. They shouldn't be making you sign up there and then. Sure. But the important thing about clinical trials is they have to go through ethical approval. You can't just do a clinical trial. So there's an ethics process. And also the other thing is you can be involved as a patient advocate for clinical trials. So you can be part of the process, which helps to get them set up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to know. Let's see if we've got any others. Oh, Marlene said, go to blackbreastcancer.com, movies and docs. That's worth a check out, guys. Go ahead and click on it. I'm not sure what's on there, but I'm going to have a look. Well, it's been really wonderful. I think we're going to... Oh, no, one last question, then I'll say goodbye. What would you say to someone who has recently been diagnosed and thinks chemo is harmful? Who can the family talk to for advice? Davina, one sentence, go.
I actually asked my doctor just to keep my friend quiet, and he said, he gave me advice. This is, if you don't take chemo, this is what's likely to happen. But he didn't say take the chemo, But I think you just got to do what you think is right for you, because whatever you do in life, someone's always going to say that's not good. You got to do what's right for you, and you have to educate yourself. Don't just listen to somebody. Go and do the research at the proper websites.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. What about you, Pam?
Yeah, definitely. What Davina said, families will always tell you to do something else or agree with you, but it's what you have to do for yourself. Yeah. And also listen to those professionals, because they are not just telling you things for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. And and just measure up what is best for you.
Yeah, right. Because the chance of Mr. Oncology guy telling you, here's what I suggest, and he's been in the, you know, in this career for 20 odd years, he's not just going to be throwing stuff out there lightly. And I think, Georgette, you'd agree, obviously, again, what you said with the clinical trials, it's, you know, make sure that you're aware of what's going on. Keep yourself,
and utilize your breast care nurse. You know, breast care nurses are, you know, they usually have a lot more time to go into things in a bit more detail following a consultation with the doctor. And so, they can, you know, like our breast care nurses, I just call them like my gems. Like they, you know, they really are. Yeah, honestly, they, you know, they're
they're like little angels.
Yeah,
aren't they? Yeah, wonderful people. They do a lot for everybody that's diagnosed in these areas, and they're a great resource to have that you can access as a patient as well. So guys, look, we're at the end of our hour. I hope that all of you have learned something. If there's something new that you have learned, you know, why not just whack it in the comments and be like, wow, I didn't know that. You know, anything that you've got that you want to add, maybe throw the comments in. Go ahead and check out blackhealthmatters.co.uk. You'll see my blog that was worked on there on Monday, which tells you all about my hilarious experience of cancer. And check out Black Women Rising as well if you are somebody or you know someone that's going through a cancer diagnosis as well. Their resources and their support is incredible. So please go and check them out. You can get the magazine. Thought I'd do a shameless plug there.
I'm in it.
Oh, wait, so am I. Hang on. Have you got yours?
I didn't make the cut this year.
Yeah, cancer free, 8 years. Woo! So you don't get cancer and die. Okay, so we are living testament. Thank you so much, everybody. Big love, big black hugs. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay gorgeous, stay informed. And I'm just going to say goodbye. It's been an absolute wonder. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Mwah. Big hugs. I'll see you guys soon.
Take care. Bye.